You're so awkward that everyone feels uncomfortable. Don't come." My mother's words echoed in my mind as I sat cross-legged on the floor of my Portland apartment, surrounded by travel brochures. Morning light filtered through the curtains, painting soft patterns across the hardwood floor. I should have been preparing for my sister's wedding, but instead I was planning an escape to Paris. My name is Kayla, and I had just turned 27 a week earlier. For most of my life, I'd been the family disappointment, the quiet, uncertain daughter who never seemed to measure up to my younger sister Vanessa's effortless charm. While she drifted through life collecting accomplishments and admirers, I stumbled through mine, weighed down by social anxiety and the habit of saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. 3 days ago, my mother had called me. Her tone, half frustration, half embarrassment, was one I knew too well. Vanessa was marrying Wesley, a real estate developer whose family owned much of Seattle's waterfront. The wedding would be an extravagant event held at a historic estate, filled with 200 guests dressed in designer clothes and sipping champagne that cost more than my monthly rent. "We've discussed it as a family," my mother had said tightly. "Vanessa's worried about the impression you'll make. You know how you get at social events, stammering, awkward pauses. Wesley's family is very particular about appearances. This day has to be perfect." I wanted to argue, to remind her that I was her daughter too. But the words caught in my throat, as they always did when I tried to defend myself. Instead, I whispered, "I understand," and ended the call before the tears came. My best friend Zoe found me crying at my desk at the insurance office where we both worked as claims adjusters. She listened quietly, rubbing slow circles on my back, her expression growing more furious with each detail. "That's unbelievably cruel," she said firmly. "You're her sister. You should be there." "Maybe they're right," I murmured, wiping my eyes. "I am awkward. I do make people uncomfortable." "Stop that," Zoe said, gripping my shoulders and making me look at her. "You're kind and thoughtful. Just because you're not loud and showy like Vanessa doesn't mean you're less." Her words were kind, but they couldn't erase years of feeling like I didn't belong. My father, a successful surgeon, had always been distant, more invested in his golf handicap than his daughters. My mother, obsessed with appearances, had poured all her energy into Vanessa, the daughter who reflected her status best. And Vanessa had learned early that pushing me aside only made her shine brighter. So instead of fighting for a place at a wedding where I wasn't wanted, I made another choice. I booked a flight to Paris, the morning of the wedding. While my family toasted champagne and posed for perfect pictures, I'd spend the day walking through the Louvre, eating croissants at street cafes, pretending to be someone confident, someone free. My phone buzzed with a message from my mother. "Vanessa wants to make sure you're not planning to show up uninvited." "Please confirm," I typed back. "I'll be out of the country." "Have a beautiful day." There was no reply, no hesitation, no hint of guilt. Just silence. And that silence told me everything I needed to know. That evening, I bought my ticket, watching my savings shrink as I clicked confirm. It was impulsive and expensive, but the thought of being an ocean away from my family's celebration felt like the only way to breathe. I couldn't stand to watch from the sidelines again, to see smiles and photographs that would once again leave me out of the story. Zoe helped me plan the trip, her enthusiasm slowly lifting my spirits. Together, we mapped out museums, parks, and restaurants. She insisted I buy something new. "A dress that makes you feel amazing," she said, handing me a deep navy one that fit perfectly. "Who needs a wedding when you'll be in Paris? Make this your own celebration." The night before my flight, I packed carefully. I folded the blue dress, tucked in a worn paperback I'd been meaning to finish, and added a small journal. Maybe I'd write about the trip, about finally choosing myself. As I zipped my suitcase, my phone lit up with a notification. It was an Instagram post from Vanessa, a photo of her and Wesley, glowing with happiness. The caption read something about eternal love and the countdown to their wedding. The comments overflowed with hearts and congratulations. I scrolled through them, recognizing cousins, family friends, and distant relatives. Everyone who would be there. Everyone except me. I closed the app quickly, my chest tightening with an emotion I couldn't quite define. It wasn't exactly jealousy, though a hint of that lingered. It felt more like grief. Grief for the relationship we never had, for the family that had never really felt like mine. The morning of my departure came with clear skies and unusually warm air. I caught an early train to the airport. my suitcase rolling beside me, my heart lighter than it had felt in weeks. For once, I was doing something just for myself, something daring. But as the plane lifted off and Portland disappeared beneath the clouds, a quiet unease settled in. It was as if I were forgetting something important, something just out of sight. The flight to Paris was long but calm. I watched 3 movies I'd been meaning to see, dozed off against the window, and tried not to keep checking the time. Somewhere over the Atlantic, Vanessa would be walking down the aisle in a gown that probably cost more than my car. My mother would be crying tears of joy. My father would be standing tall and proud, his successful daughter marrying into exactly the kind of family he'd always admired. And there I was, 30,000 feet above, quietly running away. When I arrived in Paris, the sun was rising, washing the city in soft pink and gold. The taxi driver who took me to my small hotel near the Latin Quarter spoke a little English, pointing out landmarks as we drove. The city was even more beautiful than I had imagined. Elegant buildings, tree-lined streets, and an energy that felt timeless. After checking in and taking a quick shower to shake off the fatigue, I changed into something comfortable and stepped outside. Back in Seattle. The wedding would begin in about 6 hours, mid-afternoon there, early evening here. By then, I planned to lose myself in the Louvre, surrounded by art and strangers, too absorbed to think about what I was missing. The morning drifted by pleasantly. I wandered through the Jardin du Luxembourg, watching children sail toy boats across the fountain. At a small bakery, the woman behind the counter smiled kindly at my clumsy French and slipped me an extra macaron with my coffee. I walked along the Seine, taking pictures of Notre Dame and the bridges, collecting proof that I was having a wonderful time. But beneath the surface, there was an ache I couldn't shake. I kept thinking about Vanessa, whether she noticed I wasn't there. Whether anyone had asked about me, probably not. My mother had likely told everyone I was ill or caught up with work. That version would be easier than admitting I'd been uninvited. Growing up, Vanessa and I had been opposites from the very beginning. She was beautiful. With our mother's soft features and thick, shiny hair, she carried herself with effortless charm, winning people over wherever she went. I had inherited my father's height and plain looks. I was awkward at parties, more comfortable with books than conversation. Our mother never hid her favoritism. Vanessa always got the best clothes. The bigger room, the first choice of everything. When I complained, she would sigh and say, "Don't be difficult. Kayla, you know Vanessa has more opportunities. We're just being practical." Those opportunities usually meant modeling auditions, beauty pageants, and social events designed to showcase Vanessa's looks. I was expected to stay in the background, to be thankful for hand-me-downs and whatever attention was left over. My father, always absorbed in his surgical career, rarely noticed the imbalance. When I once tried to talk to him about it, he simply patted my head and said, "You're both my daughters. Now let me read my journal in peace." The only person who ever made me feel truly seen was my grandmother, my father's mother. She lived with us during my early years and understood how the family dynamics affected me. She would take me out alone, just the two of us, and tell me I was bright and interesting. "Don't let them make you small," she whispered once. "You have your own light, Kayla. Never let anyone dim it." When she passed away at 15, it felt like losing my only ally. After that, I withdrew even more, silently counting down the days until I could leave for college. And when that day finally came, moving into a dorm 3 hours away, I felt like I could breathe freely for the first time, but distance didn't erase the patterns. Vanessa still received the admiration, the attention, the love. I got duty and disappointment. Family dinners became quiet reminders of invisibility, as everyone praised Vanessa's latest success. When I graduated college with honors, my mother spent the evening discussing Vanessa's new boyfriend. When I landed a job at an insurance company, my father asked when I planned to do something more impressive. Wesley had entered Vanessa's life 8 months earlier. They met at a charity event. She was there to appear generous, and he was there to network. My mother had been thrilled. A wealthy man from a prominent family, exactly what she had envisioned for Vanessa. I met Wesley only once at a family dinner my mother insisted I attend. He was attractive in a polished, Impersonal way with practiced charm and a confident handshake. He barely acknowledged me, focusing entirely on Vanessa and my parents. When I tried to join the conversation, he looked at me in brief confusion, as if momentarily reminded I existed. Vanessa, radiant beside him, absorbed all the attention. When I left early, claiming a headache, no one tried to stop me. The engagement happened soon after, followed by months of wedding planning that completely absorbed my mother. Every phone call was about flowers, venues, or guest lists. When I offered to help, she replied, "We have it handled. You'd probably just make Vanessa nervous." And that's how I ended up in Paris, because even attending the wedding had been considered a potential problem. By early afternoon, Paris time, I found myself at the Louvre. The museum buzzed with tourists, everyone crowding into the grand halls, tilting their phones toward famous paintings. I stood before the Mona Lisa, surrounded by a sea of strangers taking selfies, and felt an unexpected wave of loneliness. Pulling out my phone, I tried to distract myself with something mindless, almost without thinking. I opened Instagram, curious to see what I was missing back home, and that's when everything shifted. The first post I saw was from my cousin Jennifer, uploaded just 20 minutes earlier. It was a shaky phone video with the caption, "OMG, you guys won't believe what just happened at Vanessa's wedding." My stomach tightened. As I tapped to watch, the video showed the wedding reception, an elegant ballroom, filled with ivory-draped tables and glittering chandeliers. Recognized the floral centerpieces my mother had spent months selecting. In the background, I could hear confused murmurs and scattered gasps. Then the camera steadied on the center of the room. My mother stood facing Wesley, her face flushed with anger. Even through the small screen, I could see the tension. Wesley's expression was twisted in fury, his stance rigid and confrontational. Vanessa stood off to the side, her white gown gleaming under the chandeliers, hands covering her mouth in disbelief. I raised the volume, pressing the phone close to my ear over the museum noise. "You think you can dictate to me?" Wesley's voice was sharp, cutting through the chatter. "You're nobody. Your entire family is nobody. How dare you talk to me like that?" My mother's reply came shrill and defensive. "After everything we've done to welcome you into this family?" "Welcome me?" Wesley's laugh was harsh, mocking. "You've been flattering me from day one because you know Vanessa's lucky I even noticed her. She's pretty, sure, but that's all she has. And you," he sneered, "pretending you're important because you married a doctor and raised a daughter who can smile on cue." The room in the video had fallen completely silent. Guests watched wide-eyed, several already lifting their phones to record the unfolding confrontation from different angles. My mother's face turned pale. "You need to apologize right now," she said sharply. "This is my daughter's wedding day." "Your daughter?" Wesley stepped closer, his voice edged with contempt. "Your daughter is a shallow, spoiled child who's been raised to believe her looks are all that matter. Let me tell you something about your perfect family." "Wesley, please." Vanessa's voice broke through, tense and unsteady. "Be quiet, Vanessa," he snapped without even glancing her way. "I'm done pretending." What happened next unfolded like slow motion. My mother reached out, maybe to touch his arm, maybe just to gesture, but Wesley jerked back. Then, to everyone's shock, he spat directly in her face. A collective gasp spread through the wedding guests. My mother stood frozen, disbelief etched across her face as the spit slid down her cheek. Vanessa let out a sound that was half scream, half sob. "You're all pathetic," Wesley said clearly into the stunned silence. "This wedding is over." He turned and walked out of the frame. The video ended with my mother still standing motionless. Guests rushing toward her with napkins, and my father appearing from somewhere, his face dark with rage. I stared at my phone, unable to comprehend what I had just seen. My hands trembled as people brushed past me, unaware. I opened the comments section. It was already flooded. Did he actually spit on the bride's mom? Who is this guy? This is awful. Wedding of the year, for all the wrong reasons. I exited the post and searched for Vanessa's account. She hadn't posted anything, but dozens of people had tagged her in the video, which was spreading fast. I found 3 more versions, each from a different angle, showing the same disturbing moment. My phone rang, making me jump. It was Zoe. "Kayla, are you seeing this?" she said the moment I answered. "It's everywhere. Someone from my high school shared it, and she doesn't even know your family." I just watched it, I said, my voice sounding distant even to myself. Zoe, he spat on my mother. In front of everyone. It's already viral, she replied. There are memes. This is going to explode, I felt dizzy. I found a bench along the museum wall and sat heavily, gripping my phone. I should call them. I don't know what to do. What can you do? You're in Paris, Zoe said gently. She was right. Still, guilt crept in. Guilt for being away. Guilt for feeling a flicker of vindication deep inside. A whisper in my mind said, they wanted a perfect wedding without me. And look what they got instead. More notifications flooded in. The video was now everywhere, reposted, shared, dissected. News outlets had started covering it. Within an hour, a hashtag began trending. #WeddingSpitgate. My phone rang again. This time, it was my father. I stared at his name, my finger hovering over the answer button. He'd never called just to talk. Only when my mother told him to, or when he needed something. What could I even say to him now? I let it ring out. Then came calls from my mother, then Vanessa, then my mother again. Each one went unanswered as I watched, detached, like I was observing my old life unravel from afar, around me. The museum carried on as if nothing had happened. Tourists chatted. A family took photos nearby. A couple argued quietly in French about which gallery to visit next. Life moved on, indifferent to my chaos. I looked back at my phone, at the frozen frame of my mother's shocked face, the spit sliding down her cheek, Wesley's expression of cold contempt, Vanessa's horrified stare, and I thought, everything is about to change. I finally answered my mother's call on her 5th try. By then, I had left the Louvre and was sitting in a small cafe near my hotel, a cup of cold coffee untouched beside me as my phone kept lighting up with messages. Kayla. Her voice was hoarse, stripped of its usual control. Where are you? I told you, I said quietly. I'm in Paris. You need to come home right now. I stirred my coffee slowly, watching the spoon form small whirlpools in the cup. Why would I do that? Don't be difficult, she said, her voice sharpening with that familiar edge. Your sister needs you. This family needs you. Interesting, I said quietly. The same family that didn't want me at the wedding suddenly needs me when things fall apart. This is not the time for self-pity, she snapped. Do you even realize what we're dealing with? That video has been viewed millions of times. Millions. Kayla, your father's office is getting flooded with calls. Vanessa is hysterical. We're being harassed online. And where are you? Hiding in France like a coward? Something in me broke at that word. A coward? You told me not to come. You said I was too awkward, too embarrassing. That I'd ruin Vanessa's perfect day. I never said that. Yes, you did. 3 days ago. You said everyone would feel uncomfortable if I showed up. There was silence. Then her voice shifted, soft and falsely sweet, the tone she used when she wanted something. Kayla, honey, I think you misunderstood. I was only worried you'd feel overwhelmed by such a large event. You know how anxious you get. Don't gaslight me. I remember exactly what you said. Well, regardless of what was said, we need you now, she replied quickly. Vanessa's locked herself in her old room and won't come out. Your father is barely holding it together and Her voice cracked just enough to sound convincing. I'm humiliated, Kayla. That man spat on me in front of everyone. Our friends, our relatives, business partners. Everyone saw I should have felt sympathy. She was my mother, hurt and humiliated in public. But instead, I felt nothing. Just a dull, quiet emptiness. What do you want me to do about it? Come home. Talk to Vanessa. Help us manage this media disaster. Show everyone we're a united family. A united family, I repeated slowly. The same family that excludes me until it needs damage control. Kayla, please. I'm begging you. She had never begged for anything in her life. The sound of it should have moved me, but it didn't. It felt hollow, performative. She didn't want me. She wanted a solution. I'll think about it, I said. I have to go. Kayla, wait. I ended the call and blocked all their numbers. Then I ordered a glass of wine, even though it was barely 3 p.m. The waiter brought it over with a sympathetic smile, as if he somehow understood. For the next hour, I scrolled through the endless coverage of what the internet had labeled the wedding spit scandal. News outlets were running headlines. Entertainment sites were dissecting every frame. People were analyzing Wesley's outburst, my mother's reaction, and Vanessa's shock. Some comments expressed pity for my family. Others were harsh. The mother looks arrogant, probably deserved it. Rich people problems. LOL. That poor bride. Imagine your wedding turning into a meme. The groom's unhinged. But that family seems toxic too. Then I found something that froze me. A gossip site had dug into Wesley's background. Their investigation revealed a troubling history, reports of violent behavior. A former girlfriend had filed a restraining order 2 years ago, saying he had threatened her. He'd been fired from his real estate firm for aggressive conduct toward coworkers. Apparently, his family's wealth had helped bury these incidents. My mother, dazzled by his money and connections, had never bothered to look deeper. Or maybe she had known and simply didn't care, as long as Vanessa married into wealth. I took a screenshot and stared at it. This changed everything. For all her flaws, her vanity, her complicity in my exclusion, Vanessa was now tied to a man who might be dangerous. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Kayla. It was Vanessa. Her voice was shaky, raw from crying. She must have borrowed someone's phone. Please don't hang up. I said nothing. I know you hate me, she said quickly, her words tumbling out. I know we treated you horribly. I should have defended you about the wedding. But please come home. I don't know what to do. Wesley texted me that he's coming back tonight. He says we need to talk and I'm scared, Kayla. I'm really scared. Then don't see him. Stay at Mom and Dad's. You don't understand. He has a key to my apartment. He knows everything, where I live, my schedule. He's been calling and texting nonstop, and the things he's saying... Her voice cracked. I thought I knew him. He was so charming, so perfect. But the way he acted at the wedding, the way he looked at us like we were nothing. Did you know about his past? The restraining order? The job he lost? Silence. What are you talking about? She asked. I sent her the article. I heard her sharp gasp through the phone as she read it. Oh my God, she whispered. Kayla, I had no idea. Mom and Dad handled all the background checks. They said he was perfect. They said his family was perfect. They saw money and stopped looking, I said quietly. Vanessa began to sob harder. I need you. Please, I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm your sister. I'm scared of what he might do. I closed my eyes, torn between anger and empathy. Part of me wanted to tell her to handle it herself, to let her feel what it's like to be abandoned by family. But another part of me, the one that remembered us as children, before everything became complicated, couldn't ignore her fear. I'll see what I can do, I said finally. But Vanessa, I'm not coming back to pretend everything's fine. If I return, things will have to change. Anything, she said quickly. I'll do anything. Just please help me. After we hung up, I sat for a long while, watching the Paris street life flow past my cafe table, couples holding hands, tourists studying maps, locals rushing home from work. Normal life continued. Unaware that my world was quietly rearranging itself, I opened flight information on my phone. There was a flight leaving the next morning that would get me to Portland by evening. It was expensive to change my ticket, but I had my credit card. As I confirmed the booking, I felt something shift inside. I was going back, but not as the embarrassed daughter who always tried to stay small. I was going back with clarity, with leverage, and with a better understanding of who my family really was. And maybe, just maybe, I was going back to finally stand up for myself. The flight home felt entirely different from the one to Paris. This time, I wasn't running away. I was heading toward something, though I couldn't yet name what. Most of the flight, I spent researching. My laptop was open with multiple tabs about Wesley, his family, and the news stories that had surfaced after the wedding video. What I found was disturbing. Wesley's family wealth came from his grandfather, who built a real estate empire in the 1970s. But Wesley, the youngest son, was often overshadowed by his more successful brothers. His role in the family company was mostly symbolic, a title without real influence. He drifted between positions, leaving each one under unclear circumstances. The restraining order filed by his ex-girlfriend made my stomach twist. She described him as charming at first, then increasingly controlling and aggressive. He would explode in anger over small things, then apologize extravagantly with expensive gifts. The final incident, the one that led her to take legal action, involved him showing up at her workplace, creating a public scene after she ended the relationship. I found her social media profile. Most old posts were gone, but one remained from a year ago. 1 year free from toxicity. If you're in a relationship where you feel afraid, please know you deserve better. Leaving was the hardest and best thing I ever did. I took more screenshots, collecting everything I could. If Wesley was as volatile as he seemed, my family didn't just need damage control, they needed protection. When I landed in Portland, the sky was gray, and a steady drizzle fell, the familiar kind that defines Pacific Northwest autumns. I called a rideshare and went straight to my parents' house, a sprawling colonial in an upscale suburb where every lawn was trimmed and every driveway held luxury cars. My mother answered the door looking exhausted. Her usually perfect hair was tied back messily, and her face was bare of makeup. For the first time in my life, she looked old. "You came," she said, and there was a trace of genuine relief in her voice. "Where's Vanessa?" "Upstairs. She hasn't left her room since yesterday. Your father's at the office trying to manage the fallout. Reporters keep calling his practice." I walked past her without waiting for an invitation. The house looked the same, beautifully decorated, spotless, and cold. I climbed the stairs to Vanessa's room, the largest on the second floor. With the best view, I knocked gently. "Vanessa, it's Kayla." The door opened immediately. She looked awful, her eyes swollen from crying, her hair tangled, wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt. No makeup, no jewelry. I had never seen her so unguarded. "You're really here," she said. Then she hugged me. I stood stiffly at first, not hugging her back, but her shoulders were trembling, and she was crying into my shoulder. Despite everything, she was still my sister. Slowly, awkwardly, I lifted my arms and patted her back. "Come in," she said, pulling away and wiping her eyes. "I need to tell you everything." We sat on her bed, the same bed where, years ago, she'd lounged while chatting with friends on the phone, ignoring me when I tried to talk. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Wesley's been texting me constantly," she said, showing me her phone. The messages were a disturbing mix of rage and manipulation. Some called her worthless and stupid. Others were full of apologies and desperate pleas for another chance. Some were vaguely threatening. "I'm coming over tonight whether you like it or not. You're making this worse by ignoring me. I know where you are. I love you, baby." I was just stressed. "Your mom provoked me? Give me a chance to explain." "You're going to regret treating me this way." A chill ran through me as I read them. "Have you replied to any of these?" I asked. "I told him to leave me alone," she said. "That made him angrier." "You need to go to the police. Get a restraining order." "With what evidence?" "He hasn't threatened me directly. And his family, Kayla, they're powerful. They have lawyers, connections. Mom and Dad are terrified they'll sue us for defamation or something." "Defamation?" I repeated. "He's the one who spat on Mom in front of 200 witnesses." "I know," she said quietly. "But his family's claiming he was provoked. They're saying Mom said something offensive first. They're trying to twist it, make him look like the victim of our so-called social climbing." I laughed bitterly. "That's rich. Mom's been social climbing since the day she married Dad." Vanessa looked at me, and for the first time I saw something new in her eyes, honest acknowledgement. "I know." "I've always known, but I thought that's just how life was supposed to work. You marry someone successful, show the right image, and everything falls into place. That's what Mom always taught me, and look where that belief led you." She flinched but didn't argue. "I saw the articles you sent about his ex-girlfriend. The restraining order. I still can't believe I didn't know. I can't believe Mom and Dad didn't check either. They saw what they wanted to see: money, reputation, the right family name. They were so thrilled to marry you into someone impressive that they never looked deeper. Just like they were so proud to have me as the pretty, popular daughter that they didn't care about much else." Vanessa twisted her hands in her lap. "I know I've been awful to you." "Kayla," she said, "I know I went along with Mom treating you like you didn't matter. It was easier to be the favorite than to stand up for what was right." "Yes, it was easier," I agreed. "And now you're paying the price for building your life on shallow foundations." "I know." She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. For every time I got the bigger room, the better clothes, the attention. For every moment I let Mom exclude you or put you down about the wedding. God. Kayla, I should never have agreed to you not being there. You're my sister. I wanted to tell her I forgave her. I wanted to hug her and promise we'd fix this together. But years of hurt don't disappear with one apology, no matter how genuine. I'm not here to absolve you, I said quietly. I'm here because you're scared and you asked for help. But Vanessa, when this is over, we need to have some serious conversations about our family, about how we treat each other. I know, she whispered. I want that. I want to be better. Before I could reply, shouting echoed from downstairs, male voices, one of them frighteningly familiar from the wedding video. Wesley had arrived. Vanessa grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in. He's not supposed to be here. How did he get in? We crept to the top of the stairs and looked down. Wesley stood in the foyer facing my mother. My father, who had just come home, was between them, his face red with controlled anger. Get out of my house, my father said. His voice calm but tight, the way he always sounded when furious but holding it in. I need to see Vanessa, Wesley said. He looked disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled, his hair messy, dark circles under his eyes. She's not answering my calls. I need to explain. You spat on my wife at my daughter's wedding, my father snapped. You humiliated our entire family. You have 10 seconds to leave before I call the police. Wesley laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. The police? And tell them what? That I had a disagreement with my mother-in-law? That I got upset at my own wedding? You assaulted her, my father said sharply. Is that what she's calling it? Wesley sneered. Interesting, considering she grabbed me first. I was defending myself. That's a lie, my mother shouted. I never touched you. You're disgusting. Careful, Wesley said, his voice dropping low. Cold, controlled, and dangerous. You might want to be careful with your words, Wesley said evenly. My family has excellent lawyers. We could make things very uncomfortable for you, for all of you. Beside me, I felt Vanessa trembling. I quietly pulled out my phone, started recording, and angled it toward the scene below. Whatever happened next, we would have proof. Are you threatening us? My father asked. I'm stating facts, Wesley replied. You've been spreading lies about me online, sharing that video, making me look like a monster. But no one seems to care what caused that moment. What your wife said about my family, how she insulted my mother, implying we weren't good enough for precious Vanessa. I never, my mother began. You absolutely did, he interrupted. For months, you made little comments about how we should be grateful to be linked to your family, how your surgeon husband and perfect daughter were such prizes. You treated me like a servant at my own wedding. That's not true, my father said, though his voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? Wesley shot back. But none of that matters anymore. What matters is that Vanessa and I are married, legally married, and I have every right to see my wife. The marriage isn't valid, my mother said quickly. You left before the ceremony was finished, before signing the papers? Wesley smiled coldly. Actually, we signed the license that morning at the courthouse. A little insurance policy, you could say. So yes, Vanessa is legally my wife, and I have full rights to see her. The words landed like a physical blow. My parents froze in shock. Beside me, Vanessa made a small, pained sound. You said we'd do it at the wedding, she whispered. You told me signing early was just for paperwork, that the real ceremony was what mattered. I thought it was romantic. You told me to keep it our secret. My thoughts raced. If they were legally married, things had just become far more complicated. Divorce would take time, and Wesley could claim rights to her property. He could make life miserable for everyone, unless I found another way. I handed Vanessa my phone, still recording, and whispered, Keep filming. Don't let him notice. Then I walked downstairs. Who the hell are you? Wesley demanded when he saw me. I'm Kayla, the other daughter, I said evenly. The one not important enough to invite to the wedding. My parents stared in disbelief. My mother looked terrified. My father, confused. Kayla, go back upstairs, my father ordered. No, I said calmly. I want to hear what Wesley has to say. Turning to him, I kept my tone steady. You're right. My mother can be difficult. She cares far too much about appearances. But spitting on her? That was quite a reaction. She pushed me too far, he said. By saying what exactly? What did she say that justified that? He hesitated, clearly fabricating a story. She insulted my mother. Your mother who wasn't even at the wedding? I asked, another pause. She insulted my family. Be specific, I said. There are multiple videos of that incident with clear audio. She said, after everything we've done to welcome you into this family, and that's what set you off? That's it? You weren't there, he snapped. You don't know what happened before the cameras started rolling. You're right, I said. I wasn't there because my mother told me not to come. She said I'd make everyone uncomfortable. I let that hang in the silence. But here's what I do know. I met his eyes. I know about Jessica, your ex, and the restraining order. I know about the job you lost at Davidson Properties for threatening a coworker. I know about the DUI your family's lawyers buried. And I know you're the disappointment of your family. The one who couldn't live up to his brothers, handed a fake job to keep you busy. You don't know anything, he said, but the confidence in his voice was gone. I know you saw Vanessa as a prize, a kind, trusting woman from a family desperate to marry her off well. You love-bombed her, cut her off from her friends, and made her dependent on you. Classic abuser tactics. I love Vanessa, he snapped. You love controlling her, I replied. That's not the same thing. I showed him my phone screen, screenshots of his messages to Vanessa. These don't sound like love, I said quietly. They sound like obsession. He lunged toward me, but my father stepped between us. Don't you dare touch her. Get out of my way. No, my father said firmly. You're leaving. Wesley's eyes darted around, fury and panic twisting his face. He was losing control and he knew it. Vanessa, he shouted up the stairs. Get down here. We're leaving. She's not going anywhere with you, I said, my voice steady. In fact, she's filing for an annulment, based on fraud. You lied about your past, manipulated her into signing under false pretenses. Any judge will see that. You can't do this. We can, I said. And we will. If you contact her again, by text, call, or in person, we'll file a restraining order. And this time, unlike Jessica's case, it'll be public. The same media covering your wedding disaster will cover the story of an abusive groom. Wesley's fists clenched. For a second, I thought he might lash out, but then his shoulders dropped. He realized he'd lost. This isn't over, he said through clenched teeth. My family will ruin you. Your family's probably relieved to be rid of you, I replied. Now leave before I call the police. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows shook. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence felt heavier than the shouting. Then Vanessa appeared at the top of the stairs, still holding my phone, still recording. Her voice trembled, but her words were steady. I got everything, she said. Every word. And just like that, we had the evidence we needed. The next morning, I woke up on the couch in my parents' living room, sunlight filtering through the wide windows. My back ached from the awkward position, but my mind felt clearer than it had in years. Vanessa was still asleep upstairs, worn out from the emotional chaos of the day before. In the kitchen, my parents spoke in low, tense voices. I sat up and checked my phone. The wedding video had surpassed 15 million views. Wesley's name was trending everywhere. More importantly, 3 other women had come forward, sharing their own experiences with him after seeing the news. Each described the same controlling, aggressive behavior. I took screenshots and sent them to Patricia, the lawyer I'd found on the plane. She specialized in coercive control and domestic abuse and had already replied to my first email. Confirming she would take Vanessa's case, my mother appeared at the doorway with a coffee mug. You're awake. Barely, I said, stretching. We need to talk, all of us. She nodded, then called upstairs for Vanessa and my father. 20 minutes later, we sat around the dining table. The same one where I'd spent countless quiet dinners growing up, feeling invisible and small. Here's what's going to happen, I began before anyone else could speak. Vanessa is meeting with Patricia this afternoon. We're filing for an annulment based on fraud and coercion. We have the video from last night, his text messages, and statements from the other women who've come forward. What if his family retaliates? My father asked. Let them try, I said. With this much public attention, anything they do will be closely watched. They'll want this to disappear quietly, not drag it into court. And the media? My mother asked. How do we handle them? We don't hide, we tell the truth, I said. I turned to Vanessa. You'll give one interview with a reputable journalist. You'll tell your story, how you were deceived and manipulated. You'll become the voice of a survivor, not the subject of a viral joke. I don't know if I can do that, Vanessa said softly. You can, I replied. And you will. Because right now the internet is defining you. If you take control of your story, you redefine yourself. My mother studied me with an expression I'd never seen before, something like respect. When did you become so capable? She asked. I always was, I said evenly. You just never noticed. The words lingered. My father looked uneasy. Vanessa kept her eyes on her hands. My mother's face flushed, but for once she didn't argue. You're right, she said quietly. I never really saw you. I was so focused on Vanessa, on the life I wanted for her, that I failed you as a mother. I hadn't expected her to admit it. Yes. You did, I said simply. I'm sorry. Kayla, truly. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that I see it now. How wrong we were. How unfair it was. Vanessa reached across the table and took my hand. I'm sorry too. For everything. I looked at both of them. The women who had caused so much of my pain. Part of me wanted to reject their apologies, to make them feel what I had felt. But another part, the part that was tired of carrying anger, wanted to try something different. I'm not ready to say everything's forgiven, I said carefully. But I'm willing to work towards something better, if you truly mean to change. We are, Vanessa said. I promise we are. My father cleared his throat. Kayla, I owe you an apology too, he said. I wasn't there when you needed me. I let your mother control things and I didn't protect you from her favoritism. That was wrong. Yes, it was, I replied, meeting his eyes. But like I told them, I'm willing to try if you're willing to do things differently. He nodded, looking older and more uncertain than I'd ever seen him. Good, I said. Then let's get to work. I opened my laptop. I've been up since 5 making a plan. Patricia can see Vanessa at 2 this afternoon. I've also contacted Lauren, a journalist I trust. She works for a major outlet and wants an exclusive interview with Vanessa. But we need to act fast before someone else runs the story. How do you know all these people? My mother asked, surprised. I've been building my own life while you weren't paying attention, I said. I have connections, skills, and experience you never cared to ask about. Over the next several hours, we put the plan into motion. Vanessa met with Patricia, who filed the annulment paperwork and began collecting evidence immediately. I coached Vanessa on what to say in the interview, helping her express her truth clearly and with empathy. That evening, Lauren arrived at the house with a small camera crew. She was calm, kind, and professional, instantly putting Vanessa at ease. The interview lasted about an hour. Vanessa spoke honestly about how Wesley had manipulated her, how the courthouse marriage was framed as spontaneous romance but was really an act of control, and how grateful she was that the truth surfaced before it was too late. I want other women to know that abuse doesn't always look like abuse, she told the camera, tears running down her face. Sometimes it looks like love. Sometimes it hides behind respectability, and sometimes you don't see it until the illusion shatters. When it ended, Lauren thanked us and promised the story would air within 48 hours. This is going to be powerful, she said. You're very brave. After she left, Vanessa sank onto the couch, emotionally drained. I sat beside her. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Thank you, she whispered. For coming back. For helping me. I don't deserve it. Maybe not, I said quietly. But I'm not doing this just for you. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, and because maybe, just maybe, we can finally become the sisters we were meant to be. She squeezed my hand, and for the first time in years, the gesture felt real. The interview aired 2 days later during prime time. I watched it with my family in the living room, the air tense and silent. Vanessa appeared vulnerable yet composed, empathetic but still strong. The production team had done an excellent job editing the segment. They included the viral wedding footage alongside Vanessa's interview, followed by screenshots of Wesley's text messages and testimonies from 2 other women who had come forward. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Within an hour, Vanessa's social media was filled with messages of support, the hashtag that once mocked her had now turned into one of encouragement. Women began sharing their own stories of manipulation and emotional abuse. The entire narrative shifted overnight. And then things improved even further. The next morning, Wesley's family released an official statement through their publicist. It was carefully phrased, clearly written by lawyers, but the meaning was unmistakable. They were distancing themselves from him. They admitted he had serious personal issues they had hoped he would resolve, and expressed their support for Vanessa's decision to end the marriage. Essentially, they had decided to sacrifice him to preserve their reputation. They're protecting their empire, my father remarked while reading the statement on his phone. They don't want to be linked to this scandal. That means they won't challenge the annulment. Patricia confirmed when I called her. I've already heard from their attorneys. They're ready to settle quickly and quietly. Wesley will receive nothing from Vanessa, and they'll ensure he doesn't contest it. What about Wesley himself? I asked. He's gone silent, she replied. Deleted his social accounts. Apparently, he's checked into a wellness retreat in Arizona. His family paid to make him disappear for a while. A deep sense of satisfaction washed over me. Wesley had tried to control my sister, humiliated my mother publicly, and threatened my family. Now he was the one hiding, disgraced and disowned even by his own relatives. But there was still one more thing I needed to do. That afternoon, I drove to the local news station, the same one that had first aired the viral wedding clip. I had arranged a meeting with the station manager, a woman named Helen who had been surprisingly open to my idea. So, you want to do a follow-up piece? She asked, leaning back in her chair. About you, the sister who wasn't invited? Not just about me, I explained. About how family dynamics can be toxic, how favoritism damages relationships, how the person everyone overlooks can sometimes be the one who ends up saving the family. Helen smiled. I like it. It's a strong concept, the forgotten daughter who returns to help. Very compelling. And it's based on truth. I pulled out my phone and showed her a message from my mother, the one where she told me not to attend the wedding because I was too awkward. I have everything documented, I said. I can show exactly how my family operated, how I was treated, and why I chose to help them anyway. Helen studied me for a long moment. Why are you doing this? If they treated you so poorly, why expose yourself again? Because I'm done being invisible, I said simply. I'm done letting others control my story. And maybe, just maybe, another woman who feels unseen will realize she matters too. Helen nodded slowly. You know this will make your family look bad, especially your mother. They made themselves look bad, I replied calmly. I'm just telling the truth. And honestly, they've agreed to it. They know they need to own their mistakes. That part was true. I had discussed everything with my parents and Vanessa the night before. My mother had resisted at first, worried about appearances, but my father had surprised us all. Let her do it, he'd said firmly. We deserve to be held accountable, and Kayla deserves to be seen. So here I was, agreeing to an interview that would air in 3 days, right after another update on Vanessa's story. The forgotten daughter and the golden child, both finally telling their truths. The interview itself felt freeing. I spoke openly about growing up in Vanessa's shadow, about constantly feeling inadequate, about being uninvited from her wedding. I showed the text messages. I explained how I had gone to Paris to escape, only to watch my family's perfect day unravel from an ocean away. The interviewer asked, after everything they put you through, why did you go back? I went back because my sister was frightened and asked for my help. And because, despite everything, they're still my family. But this time, I returned on my own terms, not as the overlooked daughter, but as an independent adult who deserves respect. Have things changed? They're changing. My mother is in therapy. My father is learning to be more present. Vanessa and I are slowly rebuilding our bond. It's not perfect and it won't be fixed overnight. But for the first time in my life, I feel genuinely seen by them. The interviewer asked, what would you say to other women who feel invisible in their families? I looked straight into the camera. You are not the problem. Your worth isn't dependent on someone else recognizing it. Sometimes the best form of revenge is refusing to let others diminish you any longer. Stand up, speak out. Take your space. You deserve to exist fully. When the interview aired, my phone was flooded with messages. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years reached out. Coworkers said they had no idea what I'd been going through. Strangers thanked me for being honest, but the message that meant the most came from Zoe. "I'm so proud of you." "You're a warrior," I smiled and replied. It just took me a while to realize it. That evening, my family met for dinner at a restaurant, our first public outing since everything happened. People recognized us, but instead of judgment, we received kindness. Several women approached to thank Vanessa and me for speaking up. As we sat at the table, my mother lifted her glass. "To Kayla," she said, her voice trembling with emotion, "for saving us when we didn't deserve it." "To Kayla," the others echoed. I raised my glass and met each of their eyes. To second chances and doing better. We clinked our glasses, and for the first time I could remember, I felt like I truly belonged at that table. 3 months later, I stood in the doorway of a small conference room in downtown Portland, watching as a dozen women found their seats. It was the third meeting of the support group I'd started, a space for women facing family rejection, favoritism, and the pain of feeling invisible to the people who should love them most. "Thank you all for coming," I said, taking my seat at the head of the table. "Let's go around and share how this week has been." Their updates varied. Some were slowly reconnecting with family. Others had chosen to create distance. One woman shared that she'd finally confronted her parents about years of favoritism toward her brother. "It was painful," she said, "but I feel lighter now. Like I gave myself permission to acknowledge what hurt me, and that alone felt healing." I nodded, completely understanding. My own healing had been gradual, not one defining moment, but an ongoing process. Since the wedding, I'd had countless difficult conversations, therapy sessions, and honest realizations. It hadn't been easy, but slowly, things were improving. My mother had committed to weekly therapy and had apologized more than once, not just in a crisis, but sincerely. She was beginning to examine how her obsession with image and reputation had hurt her daughters. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. My father and I had started meeting for weekly coffee. He actually asked about my life and listened to the answers. He was awkward at first, unfamiliar with genuine connection, but he was trying, and that effort mattered. Vanessa and I were rebuilding our relationship one step at a time. She had started therapy too, working through her role in our family's dynamic and her pattern of defining herself through male approval. We now talked on the phone several times a week, real conversations about real things, not the surface-level exchanges of before. Her annulment had gone through without any objection from Wesley or his family. Vanessa had moved into a small apartment she could afford on her own and re-enrolled in school to finish the degree she'd abandoned when she started chasing the idea of a wealthy husband. I spent so long trying to be what Mom wanted that I forgot to figure out what I wanted, she told me one day. I'm 25 and I'm just now asking myself what I actually enjoy. Better late than never, I told her. As for Wesley, he had faded quietly into the background. The wellness retreat turned into a longer stay, and rumor had it his family paid him to keep a low profile. His social media stayed deleted. People who had seen him said he looked drained, smaller somehow. I didn't waste energy feeling sorry for him. He made his choices, and now he was living with them. My energy was better used elsewhere, building something meaningful. The support group had grown from a small idea into something real. We met twice a month, and women kept joining through word of mouth and social media. Some attended a few sessions and moved on. Others became regulars, forming friendships and helping each other through their family struggles. I'd also started speaking at events, sharing my story at conferences focused on family dynamics and women's empowerment. The same anxious woman who was once told she'd embarrass her family was now standing on stages, speaking to hundreds and being applauded for her honesty. The irony wasn't lost on me. After the meeting ended that evening, I drove to my parents' house for our usual Sunday dinner. These family dinners were nothing like the tense, silent meals of my childhood. Now we actually talked, laughed sometimes, and faced conflicts openly instead of letting them linger. "How was the meeting?" Vanessa asked as I came in. She had just finished her shift at the bookstore, where she worked part-time while studying. "Good," I said. "We had 2 new women join today." "That's wonderful," she smiled. My mother was setting the table and looked at me with genuine pride. "You've built something really special. Kayla, thanks, Mom. We sat down to eat, and my father asked about my job at the insurance company. I told him about a promotion I'd been offered, a management position with more responsibility and a generous raise. I'm proud of you, kiddo, my father said. You've handled everything this year with real grace and strength. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, I replied. Turns out, being underestimated your whole life builds resilience. My mother flinched slightly at my words but didn't defend herself or make excuses. We gave you every reason to walk away, she said quietly. The fact that you gave us a chance to do better, is more than we deserved. You're right, I agreed. But people are more than their worst moments. What matters is trying to be better. After dinner, Vanessa and I sat on the back porch, sipping tea while the sunset colored the sky in soft oranges and pinks. We were quiet, comfortable in each other's company in a way we had never been before. Do you think you'll ever fully forgive us? Vanessa asked gently. I thought for a moment. Forgiveness is a process, not a destination. I'm working on it. Some days are easier than others. That's fair, she said after a pause. I'm working on forgiving myself too, for being shallow, for going along with how you were treated. We were both shaped by how we were raised, I said. You were praised for certain things, and I was punished for being myself. We're both unlearning that now. When did you get so wise? She teased. I laughed. Probably when I was sitting alone in Paris, watching my family's perfect image collapse and realizing I had a choice. Stay bitter or grow stronger. I chose the second. I'm glad you did, she said softly. I'm glad you came back. Me too. We sat in comfortable silence as stars began to appear. My phone buzzed with a message from Zoe, asking if I wanted brunch next weekend. I smiled and replied yes, grateful for the friend who stood by me when my family didn't. Driving home that night, I thought about the journey I'd taken, from the overlooked daughter to the woman who helped her family face the truth, from invisible to undeniable, from running away to standing firm. The wedding I wasn't invited to had become the turning point for everything that followed, the viral video, the public exposure, the truth about Wesley's behavior. It shattered the perfect image my family had clung to for so long. And in that collapse, we found a chance to rebuild something real. Wesley faced his own consequences, both public and private. His family's statement permanently damaged his reputation, and the women who came forward revealed a clear pattern of abuse. He lost his job at his family's company, his wealth and his standing, becoming a cautionary tale about privileged men who mistake charm and money for character. His name was forever tied to that moment of spitting on my mother, a stain no apology or retreat could erase, last I heard. He was living alone in a small apartment in Arizona, working an ordinary job for the first time, humbled, isolated, and finally accountable. My mother went through her own reckoning. After my interview aired, her social media was flooded with criticism, forcing her to face how her behavior looked to others. Several friends distanced themselves, uncomfortable with the truth that had come out. She cried many nights, mourning the image she had spent decades maintaining. But in losing that false reputation, she gained something real, honest relationships with her daughters. She was still learning, still stumbling, but she was truly trying to become a better person and a better mother. As for me, I learned that revenge doesn't always mean destruction. Sometimes, the best revenge is refusing to let someone's low opinion define you. It's turning pain into purpose. It's standing tall and saying, I deserved better, and I'm going to expect better from now on. For 27 years, I had made myself smaller to fit into my family's story. But that chapter was over. I was done shrinking, done apologizing for existing, done being the forgettable daughter. I was Kayla, fully seen, fully myself, and that was the sweetest victory of all.